It all begins back in 1931. A man named Papillon is in the middle of a bold heist, cracking open a safe and stealing a handful of diamonds. He swiftly makes his exit through a window, vanishing into the busy streets of Paris. He then arrives at a club, where he delivers the stolen gems to a powerful figure, the head of the French mafia. The boss seems pleased but warns Papillon, betrayal won't go unpunished. Later, Papillon meets up with his lover, Nanette. He gives her a necklace from the loot and tells her he secretly kept a few diamonds for himself. But someone from the mafia catches sight of this exchange. That night, Papillon and Nanette celebrate together, drinking and enjoying their time, unaware of what's coming. By the following morning, things take a dark turn. Police burst in and arrest Papillon, accusing him of murdering a pimp, the same one who had a run-in with the mafia boss at the club. Papillon realizes he's being set up. He reassures Nanette that he's innocent and that he was with her the entire night, giving him a solid alibi. But once he's behind bars, he tells her not to bother fighting the case. The justice system is rigged and the ones framing him have serious power. He's been sentenced to life. He urges her to move on because he's now solely focused on breaking out. A fellow inmate named Gillot overhears their conversation and tells Papillon that if he really wants to get out, he's going to need money, and a lot of it. Papillon and the rest of the new prisoners undergo a medical exam. They're then informed that they'll be sent to serve their sentences in French Guiana, a penal colony infamous for its inescapable prison. Nobody has ever made it out alive. While on the ship to the island, Gillot points out a man named Louis Degas, a wealthy counterfeiter who made a fortune in his criminal days. Papillon figures Degas must still have access to a lot of cash. He approaches him with a proposition: protection in exchange for funding and escape. Degas isn't interested. He believes the guards will keep him safe. That same night, an inmate murders the man sleeping next to Degas, slicing open his belly to retrieve cash hidden inside. It becomes clear that guards won't intervene. The next day, Degas changes his mind. He agrees to Papillon's offer, but on one condition: Papillon has to keep him safe until he's settled in prison. After that, he'll pay up. Papillon makes it clear he's planning to escape alone. Degas is fine with that. He has an appeal in progress and expects to be released through legal means. But that night, another inmate sneaks up on Degas with a blade. Papillon catches it just in time and throws himself into the fight. The scuffle turns wild. Eventually, the guards break it up. They inspect everyone's hands and discover Papillon was involved. As punishment, they bind him tightly, making it impossible for him to move. The next morning, they reach the island. During the landing, Gillot stabs his own leg so he can be taken to the infirmary instead of the main prison. The warden gives a stern warning to all the newcomers. He tells them not to even think about escape. If they don't get shot trying, the sea is filled with sharks just waiting to feast. And if they try once, they'll get 2 years of solitary. Try again and it's 5 years in isolation, then permanent transfer to Devil's Island, the worst of the worst. Once inside, Papillon wastes no time making connections. He tries to get himself and Degas assigned to work in the infirmary. Degas tries to help, but his high society manners don't sit well with the hardened prison crew. The man who handles work assignments says it'll cost them $1,000. Papillon demands cigarettes in return, and Degas asks for a notebook to sketch in. Not long after, rumors spread that someone escaped from the infirmary. Papillon guesses it was Gillot and feels a glimmer of hope. Maybe escape isn't impossible after all. Just when they're about to be posted to the infirmary, trouble strikes. The deputy warden recognizes Degas. Turns out, Degas' counterfeit bonds got the man's son-in-law arrested. As payback, the two of them are reassigned to the brutal labor of the prison mines. Later, Degas draws a portrait of his wife and tells Papillon he's confident she'll do everything she can to get his appeal through. Papillon isn't convinced. With Degas' money now in her hands and freedom within her reach, she might have moved on. While pushing a cart one day, Degas confesses he's having stomach issues, and in the process, the money he keeps hidden inside his body has fallen out. Papillon quickly retrieves it before the guards catch on. During a short break, Papillon meets Charrière, a former Navy man like himself, who now has connections on the outside. Charrière tells him that if he can pull off the escape plan, his contacts can arrange for a boat. Later, while riding back with the guards, they share their vehicle with a local man who supplies women to the prison. Papillon offers him $2,000 for help getting a boat. The man demands $5,000 instead and warns he's only on the island for 3 more weeks. Back at the prison, more inmates try to go after Degas. Papillon steps in again, violently defending him, at one point even biting off a man's ear. Frustrated and furious, Papillon later lashes out at Degas for putting him in constant danger. Degas reminds him that protecting him was part of their deal. That night, Degas tells Papillon that he's had enough. He wants to escape too because it's clear he won't survive long enough for his appeal to go through. But Papillon refuses. Degas not strong enough, and Papillon fears he'll only slow him down. Soon after, the inmates are forced to gather and watch as Gillot is dragged out in front of them. His escape attempt failed and he killed a guard in the process. Now he's being executed. The guillotine comes down and Gillot's head is severed. Papillon and Degas are ordered to carry the body out into the jungle. The sight is too much for Degas. Seeing the blood pouring from Gillot's neck sends him into a frozen state. The guards whip him to force him to move, but he still doesn't budge. That's when Papillon acts. He attacks the guard and knocks him out, then bolts into the trees making a break for freedom. Guards pursue him, but Papillon manages to slip away. Degas, meanwhile, is dragged back to the prison alone. Later that night, Papillon shows up at the pimp's house, expecting to get on the boat and begin his escape. But instead of freedom he walks into a trap. The pimp has betrayed him. Armed men suddenly surround him, and the pimp calmly reveals the truth. No amount of money Papillon offers can match what the prison warden will pay to have him returned. Papillon is dragged back to the prison. The warden greets him with cold precision and informs him that his next 2 years will be spent in complete isolation, alone on a different island. He explains the purpose behind this punishment: to crush the prisoner's mind and extinguish any remaining hope. Inside the isolation cell, Papillon quickly learns the strict rules. He's not even allowed to make a sound. Silence is enforced at all times. The environment is brutal, but he tries to keep his grip on reality. The same guard Papillon once knocked unconscious visits him and exacts revenge through a beating. But in this cold and quiet misery, something surprising happens. One day Papillon finds a coconut in his water ration, with a message promising one each day. He realizes it must be from Degas, who's still looking out for him. The gesture gives Papillon a renewed sense of strength, and he begins doing daily exercises to keep his body and mind alive. But that hope doesn't last long. A guard eventually spots the coconut, reports it, and the warden confronts Papillon. He demands the name of the person helping him. Papillon stays silent, protecting Degas. As punishment, the warden cuts his food in half. Time drags on. With barely enough to survive, Papillon's health begins to deteriorate. His face grows thin and his body shows signs of starvation. After months of this cruelty, the warden shows up again, this time with a plate of food. He offers Papillon a decent meal, but only if he gives up the name. Instead of accepting, Papillon dumps the food right onto the warden and says nothing. That's the final straw. The warden orders that Papillon be left in total darkness for the rest of his sentence. In the pitch-black cell, Papillon begins to drift into his memories, but those memories twist and blur with disturbing visions. He sees Degas dressed as a mime, hears voices, imagines safes embedded in the walls. At one point he even attempts to crack open an imaginary vault, like he did in his old life. The hallucinated safe eventually opens on its own, possibly symbolizing a breakthrough in Papillon's mind. 2 years pass. The door creaks open and guards pull out a barely conscious Papillon, transferring him to the infirmary. Degas, who's now managed to earn a place of favor with the warden as his personal bookkeeper, visits the infirmary and finds Papillon staring blankly, seemingly broken. Feeling guilty, Degas apologizes, knowing his friend endured all this because of their connection. He also admits that Papillon was right all along. His wife betrayed him. She didn't fight for his release. She married his lawyer instead. Suddenly, Papillon cracks a crude joke about her and flashes a grin. Degas stunned. Papillon isn't broken at all. He's pretending to be mad so he can stay in the infirmary and avoid going back to general population. Degas asks why he never gave him up to the warden. Papillon responds simply, Degas wouldn't have survived the consequences. He then adds that once he gets out of this place, his life will never be the same again. The time in solitary has changed something deep inside him. Degas mentions that on Sunday, a group of local officials will be visiting the prison. The warden plans to screen a movie for them in the courtyard. During the event, the guards will be distracted, perfect timing for an escape attempt. Papillon says they'll need Cellier's help for that. He's the one with access to a boat. Soon after, Papillon pretends to go completely unhinged and starts screaming at Degas to get away from him. Degas plays along, calling for the guards to restrain Papillon. They respond by sedating him, but he secretly hides the drug. That night, Papillon overhears the infirmary guard sexually harassing another prisoner, a young man named Charrière. He tells Charrière that he's putting a plan in motion to escape and needs his help. Charrière agrees, but warns that because of the distraction he has to provide, the plan better work. Meanwhile, Charrière purposely injures himself to get admitted into the infirmary and join the escape crew. Papillon passes the hidden sedatives to Degas, who plans to spike the guards' drinks during the Sunday gathering. When Sunday arrives, the plan kicks off. Degas hands out drinks laced with sedatives. At the same time, Charrière offers himself up to the infirmary guard, luring him into the bathroom. While the guard is preoccupied, Papillon and Charrière turn their bedposts into weapons and knock the man out. They quietly sneak through the prison corridors. The guards are out cold and everything seems to be working. They pause to wait for Degas, but at the worst possible moment, rain begins to fall. The outdoor movie is cancelled. The politicians and all the guards rush back inside. Charrière urges they leave Degas behind and make their move, but Papillon refuses to abandon him. He insists they wait. Not long after, Degas shows up, limping but determined, and carrying stolen keys to the watchtower. With the storm knocking out the lights, they now have the cover of darkness on their side. The group manages to sneak their way to the tower and begin their escape. 3 of them make the jump down safely. Degas isn't so lucky, he lands badly and injures his foot. Unable to walk properly, Papillon and Charrière support him as they push forward. They rendezvous with Charrière's contact, hand over the payment, and finally board a small boat, leaving the island behind. For a moment, it feels like they've made it. They're finally free. But the victory is short-lived. The boat is old and full of holes, and they're forced to bail out water non-stop just to stay afloat. Charrière pulls Papillon aside and tells him the harsh truth: the boat won't hold 4 people. Degas, with his injury, has become dead weight. Papillon doesn't respond, but the situation worsens when a storm begins to form on the horizon. As tension rises, Charrière loses patience. He pulls out a knife and tries to force the issue. A chaotic fight breaks out. Charrière gets thrown overboard and Papillon nearly loses his life. But in a rare moment of strength, Degas steps in, grabbing a blade and stabbing Charrière repeatedly until he collapses. Charrière climbs back onto the boat, soaked and shivering. Together, the 3 survivors toss Charrière's lifeless body into the sea. Degas collects his ruined sketches as rain pours down, and the 3 brace themselves against the oncoming storm. They lose the fight. The boat capsizes and everything goes black. Papillon awakens inside a hut, surrounded by unfamiliar sounds. When he steps outside, a nun greets him and tells him that he's now in Colombia. She seems to know his past and says everything can be forgiven, as long as he repents and finds faith. Papillon locates Degas and urges him to leave with him, but Degas is paralyzed by what happened with Charrière. Papillon decides to move on alone. Just as he's about to leave, he sees a police vehicle pulling up to the mission. He races back for Degas, but before they can escape, the guards spot them. Charrière runs for it. He's shot down in the attempt. It turns out the nun was the one who contacted the authorities. So much for mercy and redemption. Because this was Papillon's second attempt at escaping, the punishment is far worse this time. He's given 5 years in total isolation. When he emerges, he's frail and unrecognizable. Yet the warden is stunned. No one has ever lasted 5 years in solitary. He asks what kept Papillon alive all this time. Papillon doesn't offer an answer. From there, he's sent to Devil's Island, the final and most hopeless stop for any prisoner. The towering cliffs that surround it ensure no one ever escapes. Inside, Papillon finds a number of inmates who've lost their minds from the torment. Among them, to his surprise, is Degas. The 2 reunite. Degas shows Papillon where he lives, feeds him, and helps him recover. Time passes. Papillon finds himself staring out at the sea, watching the endless waves crash against the island's rock walls. One night, he wakes Degas and shares a new idea. The water currents surrounding Devil's Island are powerful, and if they build a raft, something light, they can ride the waves and be swept toward freedom. It's risky, but it's their last hope. They begin to construct a float using coconuts. But on the day of the attempt, Degas admits he won't be going. He says that this place, for better or worse, is where he belongs. But Papillon? He still has a chance. He can still live. Papillon accepts Degas' decision. He pushes the raft into the sea and leaps in after it. He survives the plunge and yells out in triumph. The camera pulls back as Papillon drifts toward the open ocean, one man against the tide, finally free. Years pass. In 1969, a weathered and older Papillon returns to France. He delivers a handwritten manuscript detailing his prison experience to a publishing house. Along with it are all of Degas' drawings. Though he's still a wanted man, he's come home for one reason: to tell his story. This film is based on the real life of Henri Charrière, nicknamed Papillon, which means butterfly in French. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy deep dive recaps like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and let us know which movie you'd love to see next.